Michael always felt small, even in a crowd. Every morning, he woke up in his small apartment in Chicago and looked in the mirror, hoping he would feel brave, but the voice inside his head only gave him doubt. At work, he often stayed quiet during meetings, even when he had good ideas. His hands would sweat, and his heart would race whenever someone asked him to speak up. At lunch, he watched coworkers chat easily and wished he could join them. He wanted to say something funny or smart, but was afraid he might make a mistake. Sometimes, Michael dreamed about being a confident person, someone who could speak in front of a group and not worry about what others thought. But each time he tried to share an idea, he remembered old moments when he had made a mistake or someone had laughed. These memories felt heavy, so he decided it was safer to stay quiet. Even with friends, Michael worried about saying the wrong thing. He often kept his thoughts and feelings to himself. At night, he wondered if things could ever change, feeling stuck in a loop of fear and silence. Deep inside, he still hoped for a new chapter, one where he could find his voice. One afternoon, Michael sat at his desk, feeling tired after another quiet meeting. He went to the kitchen for a cup of coffee. His coworker, Lisa, was there. Lisa was always full of energy and talked to everyone. She smiled at Michael and asked if he was going to the company lunch next week. Michael wanted to say yes, but he felt nervous about being with everyone. He just nodded and hoped she would not ask more questions. Lisa left, and Michael stood in the kitchen, looking at the coffee pot. He wished he could feel comfortable like Lisa. That night, after eating dinner alone, Michael scrolled through his phone. Something caught his eye, a short video. It was a man, standing on a stage, talking to a big crowd. At first, Michael was about to skip the video, but something kept him watching. The man spoke about being shy and afraid when he was younger. He talked slowly, using simple words. He said he was scared to speak in front of people, but he practiced every day, even when he made mistakes. The crowd cheered when he said, "You can change your life, even if it is scary." Michael felt something shift inside. He watched the video again. His heart beat faster, but not from fear. He wondered, could I do something like that? Maybe I could try, but what if I fail? What if people laugh at me? These questions raced in his mind. Still, the speaker's words stayed with him. It is okay to be afraid. Do it anyway. Michael thought about his life. Always the quiet one. Always holding back. He remembered being a kid, wanting to speak up in class but staying silent. He remembered the feeling of missing out, wanting to be noticed, but not knowing how. That night, Michael could not fall asleep quickly. He lay in bed thinking about the man in the video. He wanted to believe that he, too, could change. But the doubts started to creep in. What if he tried and failed? What if everyone kept seeing him as shy and quiet? His old worries filled his mind, but there was also a small light of hope. He thought maybe he could find a way to practice. Maybe he could try to be a little braver, just once. He remembered how the speaker in the video said he started small. Start with one step, the man had said. For the first time in a long while, Michael wanted to take that step. He did not know where to begin or what he should do next. He still felt unsure and afraid, but the idea of change seemed possible, even if it was just a little. The video played in his mind over and over. Michael did not have answers yet, but the hope he felt was something new. In his heart, he made a quiet promise to himself: he would try, even if he was afraid. The next morning, Michael sat at his desk, still thinking about the video. His mind kept repeating the words, "Start with one step." All day at work, he watched other people talk and laugh. He tried to picture himself joining in, but his stomach felt tight, and his hands were cold. During lunch, he looked up public speaking tips on his phone. He found out that the local library had a free speaking club on Saturdays. His heart beat fast as he read the information. Part of him wanted to close the page and forget about it, but another part quietly whispered, "Try it." Just once. That week, Michael thought about the speaking club every day. When Saturday came, he almost gave up before he left his apartment. What if people thought he was strange? What if he didn't know what to say? But then he remembered the words, "It is okay to be afraid. Do it anyway." He put on his warm jacket and walked to the library. His hands shook as he opened the door. In the meeting room, there were 10 people. They smiled and said hello. Michael's cheeks felt hot, but he managed to smile back. The club leader, Mrs. Carter, explained that everyone could speak for just 1 minute about something they liked. Michael listened as others spoke about pets, favorite books, and dreams. The group clapped for every speaker, even when someone forgot their words or looked shy. When it was Michael's turn, his heart beat fast, and his voice was quiet. He spoke about his love for baseball and how he cheered for the Chicago Cubs. His hands shook, but he finished his minute. The group clapped, and Mrs. Carter smiled at him and said, "Well done, Michael." He sat down, red-faced, but he felt a warm sense of pride growing inside. Michael left the library feeling lighter. He felt brave for just that moment. Walking back home, he smiled to himself. For days after, he could still hear the claps in his mind. The next week, he decided to go again. This time, he spoke a little louder. He explained why the Cubs were his favorite team. Although his voice still shook, it did not stop him. People in the group nodded when he shared stories, and a few even asked him questions after the meeting. Michael answered with short sentences, still nervous but happy that someone listened and cared. At work, Michael tried small things too. When Lisa joked during lunch, he tried to add a small joke of his own. His voice was shaky, and his words stumbled, but Lisa laughed and gave him an encouraging smile. It was just a small win, but it felt big to Michael. He carried that happy feeling through the afternoon. Michael knew he was starting slow, but he could also tell something was changing. Every step, every try, made him a little less scared. He still had doubts, but his hope was growing stronger. Every small win built his confidence and made the next step just a bit easier. Michael began to believe, slowly, that maybe he really could find his voice. The days at work passed quietly, and Michael continued to go to his Saturday speaking club. He was still nervous each time he stood to talk, but there was now a tiny light inside him, something that made him want to try again and again. One Monday afternoon, Michael's manager called him into the office. She smiled and said, "Michael, we need someone to give a short speech at the company open house next week. You know a lot about our new project, and I think you would do a great job." Michael froze. The world seemed to spin. He heard his own heartbeat in his ears. His hands felt icy, and his cheeks burned with fear. His mind tried to find words to say no, to make up an excuse, but his manager's kind face made him pause. She told him he could think about it and let her know. For the rest of the day, Michael walked through the office in a fog. He picked up his coffee cup but couldn't remember drinking from it. He stared at his computer screen, but the words made no sense. All he could think about was standing on a small stage with everybody looking at him. What if his voice shook? What if he forgot his words? The thought made his stomach tighten. That evening, Michael sat alone in his apartment, the city lights shining through his window. He remembered the first time he spoke in the library group. He remembered the small wins, the times he dared to say something, and people listened. Part of him wanted to say no to his manager. It would be so simple to step back into silence, to let someone else take the stage. He stared at his phone, thinking about sending a message to say he could not do it. But he did not pick up the phone. His heart ached with fear, but he also wanted to believe he had changed. He knew this was much bigger than the library club. He pictured the faces of his co-workers and the quiet space at the front of the room. This moment felt like a mountain in front of him. The days moved quickly. His doubt grew stronger with each hour. One night, he had a dream that he was speaking in front of everyone, but his voice would not come out. He woke up sweating, fear filling every part of him. Each time he tried to practice, his voice shook, and his hands got wet with sweat. He wrote notes on paper, but sometimes the words felt wrong. Fear made his mistakes look bigger and the happy memories smaller. Yet, something else started to grow inside him, an old memory from the video replayed in his mind. It's okay to be afraid. Do it anyway. By the end of the week, Michael knew he had to decide. The pressure of the big challenge felt like a heavy backpack. He stood at his living room window, watching the sun set over Chicago, wishing he could run away from the worry pressing on his chest. But he also remembered the feeling of pride after each small step at the library. He held on to that hope, even while fear whispered that he was not ready. Michael took a deep breath and told himself this might be the moment that changed everything. He was scared, but inside, he knew that facing his fear could open a door he had always wanted to step through. The day of the company open house arrived, and Michael felt tense from the moment he woke up. He chose his clothes with care, pressing his shirt and tying his shoes tightly. His hands shook as he packed his notes, and he looked in the mirror, searching his face for a sign of bravery. On the train ride to work, he tried to read over his speech, but his eyes kept swimming from nerves. All morning, the office buzzed with excitement. People put up decorations and checked little details. Michael's manager came by and gave him a supportive smile. "You'll do great," she said. Michael managed a weak smile in return, but inside, his stomach twisted with worry. As the guests began to arrive, Michael stood at the edge of the room, clutching his note cards. Everything felt loud and bright, the clinking of coffee cups, the sound of laughter, the hum of voices. He watched his co-workers smile and talk, and he wished he could feel as calm as they looked. When his name was called, time seemed to slow. Michael's legs felt heavy as he walked to the front of the room. The faces in the crowd blurred together. Light shone, making his skin feel hot. He could hear his own breathing, quick and uneven, and he could feel his heart thumping wildly in his chest. Michael reached the small stage. For a moment, he just looked down at his shoes. All the old fears tried to overflow, memories of mistakes, words of doubt. Then, suddenly, he remembered the video he had watched months ago, the kind man who spoke about fear and hope. Michael took a deep breath, held it for a second, and looked up. He saw Lisa in the crowd, giving him a thumbs up. He heard Mrs. Carter's voice from his memory saying, "One step at a time." Something steady filled his mind, and he thought, maybe I don't have to be perfect, I just have to be myself. He raised his head and tried to smile. The note cards were shaking in his hands, but he decided to set them down. His voice was small at first. "Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. I want to tell you about something important, about our new project and about overcoming fear." The crowd was silent, listening. Michael stumbled on a word, but kept going. His speech came out simple and honest. He talked about starting at the company, about feeling quiet and small. He said how sometimes people have huge worries inside, ones you can't see from the outside. As Michael spoke, he felt more strength with every word. He remembered his wins at the library, the claps, the kind faces of new friends. He let those good memories lift him up. Even when his voice shook, he tried to speak a little louder, taking one breath at a time. He used the tricks he learned from his club, looking at a friendly face, pausing if his mind went blank, and thinking about something positive while speaking. Michael could feel the fear, yes, but it was no longer in control. He realized, in that moment, that he was stronger than he knew. When he finished, there was a long, quiet pause, and then the room filled with applause. People smiled up at him, clapped, and nodded. Michael felt his heart lift as he walked down from the stage, a sense of relief and pride washing over him. He had done it, not perfectly, but bravely, and that made all the difference. As Michael stepped off the small stage, his legs felt weak but light at the same time. He squeezed his hands together, surprised to feel both relief and something new, almost like joy. The applause still echoed in his ears, and people smiled as he walked by. Lisa found him first. She gave him a quick hug and said, "You did it. I knew you could." Michael could hardly believe it was real. He wanted to be sure he was not dreaming, so he touched the side of his hand and felt the warmth. After the event, all his co-workers talked about the speech. Some came over, asking questions or sharing smiles. Michael answered simply, but with more courage in his voice than ever before. His manager stopped by his desk that afternoon. Her face was bright with pride. "You did a great job, Michael. You spoke from the heart and helped others see what's possible." Michael felt his chest swell with pride. All those years of staying quiet seemed to stand behind him now as a distant memory. He looked around at his team, and for the first time, he saw more than just faces in the crowd, he saw friends and supporters. That evening, Michael walked home, enjoying the cool air of downtown Chicago as it settled around him. He replayed moments from the speech in his mind, both the ones that went well and the times when he had stumbled or paused. Instead of feeling upset about the mistakes, he found himself smiling. He remembered being on stage, the notes in his hand, and how he had put them aside to speak with his own voice. The old fear was still there, but it did not feel as big. Michael realized that being brave was not about having no fear, it was about taking action, even when afraid. The next day, Michael went to the library speaking club feeling changed. When it was his turn to talk, his words came out clear and relaxed. He shared his story about the open house. The group watched him with respect, and afterward, someone said, "Your courage helped me want to try, too." It made Michael feel as if he had started to light a path for others, just as that video had once done for him. He still remembered being the quiet one, afraid to look people in the eye. Now, he felt different inside. Every small step had given him strength, and now the biggest step of all had proved he could do more than he ever thought. Michael reflected for a long time that week. His old doubts still visited sometimes, whispering that he might fail again. But now, he could answer those doubts. He had proof from experience. He remembered how the people clapped and how he kept going, even when it was hard. His belief in himself grew steady, no longer just hope but real trust. The experience at the company open house became more than just a moment. It was a turning point, showing him he could change, improve, and face tough things without giving up. From then on, Michael looked at challenges in a new way. Instead of fearing the next big step, he wondered what he could learn from it. He knew he might still struggle or feel nervous at times, but that was okay. Now, Michael believed he could keep trying, no matter what. This fresh faith in himself became his new strength, helping him see that growth was possible for anyone, even someone who once doubted every word. In the days after the company open house, life felt different for Michael. He still followed his regular routine, riding the morning train to his office in the busy city, but there was something lighter in his step. He found himself smiling at other people more easily in the elevator, nodding and greeting instead of keeping his eyes down. Small changes started to show in his daily life, simple things like offering his opinion during team meetings or making eye contact when someone spoke to him. Sometimes his hands shook, and his heart beat fast, but now he pushed forward anyway, telling himself he had already been through something much harder. Michael noticed that even new problems at work, which would have scared him before, now looked different. When his manager offered him a new project and asked him to share updates with the group each week, he felt a new type of energy take root inside him. He still doubted himself sometimes. The worry crept up when he looked at a blank page or remembered making mistakes in the past. But each time he remembered how he faced his fear and spoke honestly during his speech, he decided not to run away. He wrote out his thoughts step by step and focused on growing, not being perfect. At lunch with coworkers, Michael no longer waited for others to lead all the conversations. He tried to join in, even if his words were not perfect. Sometimes he made people laugh with a quiet joke. When others disagreed with him, he listened patiently and shared his view anyway, accepting that every idea was important. The old feeling of wanting to hide faded little by little. At the end of the day, as he walked home past tall buildings and busy streets, Michael thought about how different his world felt now compared to just a few months ago. One Saturday, he arrived early at the library for his speaking club. This time, he greeted each person with a handshake and a smile. A new member introduced herself and said she was nervous about speaking. Michael remembered his first meeting and how afraid he used to be. He told her, "It's okay to feel scared at first. If you try, it gets easier." To his surprise, his comforting words made her smile and stand a little straighter. During the meeting, Michael listened closely to others' speeches, giving them support and honest feedback. He realized that by helping others, he felt even stronger, and his own fears seemed smaller. Michael knew that challenges would keep coming. There would always be new projects, presentations, or unexpected problems in life. But now, when a wave of nerves tried to stop him, he remembered his first speech and his first real win. Each challenge looked less like a mountain and more like a chance to learn. With every small step, his confidence grew, and so did his belief that he was not alone. The support from friends, his experience with public speaking, and his new habit of positive thinking helped him see that he could face life with a brave heart and an open mind. As Michael thought quietly to himself each night, he understood that his true achievement was not just giving a speech, but changing how he saw himself every single day. Michael's life kept changing as he became stronger inside. He started to notice people around him who struggled with the same fears he once had. When someone at work looked nervous before a meeting, Michael offered a kind word or shared a smile. He remembered how much these small moments of kindness meant to him when he felt alone and worried. It surprised him how natural it felt to help others, and each time he did, his own fear seemed smaller. After a few more weeks, Michael was sitting at the kitchen table late one evening and had an idea. He thought about all the things that had helped him: the speech he gave to his company, the speaking club at the library, and the inspiring video that first gave him hope. He wondered if he could share his own story to help even more people. With this thought, Michael decided to start a simple blog. He knew he was not a perfect writer, but he wanted to be honest about his journey. He used easy language and short sentences, just like he needed when he was a beginner. He wrote about his fear of speaking, small daily wins, how he still made mistakes, and how his view of himself started to grow stronger. His first post was not long, but it was real and from his heart. After publishing his story online, Michael shared the blog link with his friends at the speaking club. Soon, he saw comments from readers who felt the same way he once did: quiet, unsure, and hoping for change. Their kind words made Michael smile, but he realized something even more important: his story helped others feel less alone. Some readers wrote that his advice encouraged them to join in conversations, stand up at work, or try public speaking for the first time. As weeks went by, Michael grew more confident. He continued writing each week, sharing simple steps and stories, sometimes about a meeting at work, or about a new friend he made by just speaking up. Sometimes a post was about when things went wrong and how he kept going. Each story made a small difference, first to the people who wrote comments, then to their friends, and slowly to a growing number of followers. Michael smiled whenever someone told him, "Your words gave me courage." Soon, one of his friends suggested he record videos too. At first, it sounded frightening, but he remembered how he felt before his first speech. Now, instead of backing away, Michael set up his phone, pressed record, and shared his thoughts just as if he was speaking at the library club. His voice still shook a little sometimes, but he laughed and kept going. More people watched, and more sent him messages of thanks. Each time Michael told his story or helped another person try something new, he learned more about himself. He saw that helping others was a way to keep learning, to keep sharing hope, and to make his story about more than just his own win. As he looked back, he felt amazed at how far he had come from someone afraid to speak, to a person others could look up to. Michael realized that helping others was now part of who he was, and it filled him with a happiness he had never known before. Michael's life now looked very different from when he first struggled to speak in front of others. At work, he was no longer known as the quiet or shy person who kept his ideas to himself. He joined meetings with calmness and shared his thoughts clearly. Sometimes, his ideas helped solve problems or created new projects. His manager and team saw his growth and often asked for his opinion. Michael even took part in planning big tasks, feeling welcome and respected by everyone. Every time new challenges came, a complex project or a tight deadline, he still felt nervous sometimes. But instead of letting the nerves stop him, he remembered all that he had overcome. He used his skills and positive thinking to handle tough days. Outside the office, Michael found that changes had reached into every part of his world. Building new friendships was no longer so hard. He spoke to neighbors when he saw them and invited friends to join him on weekend walks around the city. He kept attending the speaking club at the library, not only for himself but to keep encouraging new members. Whenever he saw a nervous face, he shared his simple tips and wise words. Soon, he was invited to help lead club meetings, and he happily agreed. Watching others grow made Michael proud and reminded him of his own journey. His blog and the short videos became small lights for people he would never have met before. Sometimes, Michael received emails from readers across the country thanking him for sharing true stories. One letter was from a teenager who tried speaking up at school after seeing Michael's video. Another message came from an older worker who finally dared to lead a team. These stories touched Michael deeply. He realized his courage was spreading farther than he could ever have dreamed. Michael now saw himself in a completely new way. He was aware that fear did not disappear forever, but it also no longer controlled his life. If he felt doubt on some mornings, he took a deep breath and reminded himself how much he had already achieved. He knew life would keep bringing him new steps to climb, maybe a bigger crowd to speak to, maybe another difficult project, or maybe helping someone else to start. Instead of turning away, he looked at each new moment with a brave heart. He welcomed growth as something to be enjoyed, not something to avoid. With each day, Michael's confidence grew stronger. He understood now that personal growth did not come from a single win, it was a journey made out of many small steps. The feeling of true fulfillment came from facing fears, learning something new, and giving encouragement every chance he got. Looking out at his city, Michael felt grateful for the struggles he once faced, because overcoming them showed him who he could become. Whenever he remembered how he began, quiet and unsure, he knew he was living proof that anyone can change if they start small and never stop believing. And with this strength, Michael looked ahead with hope, sure that he could meet life's next challenge with courage and joy.